I hope you're having a good day. My name is Teresa Micheletti, and this site is called Take What Rings True. And the whole idea is I share spiritual thoughts, and you believe them or you don't. So take what rings true to you and let the rest go. Now, today I want to talk about why do I have awful people in my life? Now, you probably don't have awful people in your life. Maybe you're on a rest life and everything's good. However, I have had multiple awful people in my life, including an awful brother. So, believe it or not, some of you charted to have awful people in your life to help you. And they may actually be good friends on the other side. Now, on the other hand, they could be what's called dark or gray entities, which means dark entities have not accepted the light of God and they just like to make people's lives miserable. And those can be charted in your life too, or not. But the whole idea when we come to Earth is we are here to overcome lessons and overcome people that are awful. Now, I'm sure some of you may have had mean girls in your life, or mean boys, or mean bosses. I've had all of them. So let's talk about mean girls. There was a mean girl in my junior high and high school, and she would just make my life not fun. So she would do things like I'd be in a group, sitting in a circle at lunch and invite everyone to a party, talk specifically to everybody else, ignore me like I wasn't there. And luckily, one of my friends had said, I'll pick you up at such and such a time, even though I was ignored. She also did things like make sure that I was not appreciated for running for office or having awards or whatever. She'd have like a contingent, she'd announce in class that, oh, you shouldn't vote for her. You shouldn't, don't support her. So she was like a cheerleader against me. So she's not been my favorite person all these years. I bet you don't even believe that I didn't just get out of high school. Anyway, uh, that's a joke for sure. So anyway, mean girl. So I finally, after years, figured out this mean girl was there because the lesson that I wanted to learn was feeling worthy and not to be expecting not to be treated, not to expect not to be treated like I wasn't worthy or I wasn't important to ignore me. So people would not feel my worth or say things that would make me feel unworthy, or they would ignore me completely like I wasn't there. When it's a classic thing in the movies, a woman, usually a woman, is sitting at a board meeting or sitting at a meeting and she says something great that would be wonderful and they ignore her. And then the guy across the table says the same exact thing and he gets accolades, he gets credit. Well, that's me. That's what would happen to me all the time. One person came up to me one time and said, I don't know why you say all these wonderful things and then people ignore you completely. Well, that was expectation. I came to believe that people were going to ignore me. People were going to find me unworthy. So those expectations kept coming back to me, coming back to me, coming back to me. I also had an assistant superintendent who would do the same thing, make sure that I was put down, kept in my place. Not to say that good things didn't happen to me. I was a finalist for a presidential award for teaching. But on the other hand, the principal that I had at that school at that time called me into her office because she wanted the newspaper to come out more, because the newspaper had come out to interview me, and she wanted more publicity. And I wasn't doing experiments with the kids because they weren't bringing, I think it was like bring toilet paper rolls and, something that was easy for them to bring. It wasn't like you had to spend money on this. So they didn't bring the supplies, so we didn't do the experiment. Well, she was livid because she wanted to call in the newspapers, call in the radio, call in whoever to get publicity for the school. Well, I thought it was more important that the kids learn the responsibility. Well, that was not going over well. So she was the mean boss. So there's like good and bad. I had some accolades, and then I'd be like put down. And then I'd have some accolades and I'd be put down. It's just not fun all the time. But it took me years and years to figure out, stop expecting to be treated like that. Stop. Expect to be treated like you're worthy. Expect to be treated like you matter. Expect to be treated like you're there. So some of the things that you write in your chart are people to reflect what you want to accomplish in this life. Now, on one hand, I can understand that that person, that mean girl, that one mean girl, is probably in my chart, and she may be a friend on the other side. It's very hard for me to think that I'm going to be best friends with her now. It's just hard. I can talk to her, I can be nice to her, but as far as being best friends forever, I'm not so sure that's ever going to happen. So, mean boys. I have a friend who had a wonderful relationship with this guy. And they were even writing, I think they were writing a play, movie script idea. And the guy stabbed him in the back. Like no credit for him, go around and get credit for himself and undermine him, and not a fun feeling. So what he needs to do is figure out, why is that lesson there? What expectation did he have? Or what was he trying to learn? And he can always go to a psychic or a channel. You can go to me and find out, what is the lesson? What is he supposed to let go of? What is he supposed to learn so that can stop? Stop that stuff. I know this guy is not going to, my friend is not going to forgive this guy. If he finds out what the lesson is, it's still going to be so hard on his heart that this happened to him, that they were such great friends, best friends. And then he stabs him in the back and then pulls the rug out from under him. So he doesn't have the opportunity to make money on this great idea for a script for a movie. And that happens. And why does it happen? That's what you need to figure out. Why in the world did that happen? Now, I had this yucky bully brother. I know one thing I was supposed to learn is to stand up for myself and stand up for my younger sister and my younger brother, and not let him bully people. I probably talked about him before, but one example is he stole all my silver dollars. I think there were 17 or 27, I don't remember. And so Dad made him pay me back in dollar bills, not in silver dollars. And some of the silver dollars were those Lady Liberty ones or whatever they are, but they're rare now. And to me, it wasn't the value of the money, which he stole so he could go out on a date with somebody. Gods. But he was always doing mean things. I remember he wore my cowboy boots and he kicked me in the shin. So I had a scar for years, remembering that's where he kicked me. Well, I think part of it was I was there to help protect the other kids in the family. And he was there. I don't know if I was supposed to learn a lesson. I did learn the lesson of being invisible. So when he would come to the house in adult years, I'd go visit my parents. And before I go, I'd ask to be invisible to him unless I needed to interact with him. If that was so, fine, bring him on. I don't care. I'll argue with them. I'll stand up for people, I'll whatever. But if I didn't have to deal with him, I don't want to deal with him. And he would come into the house. I'd be sitting in the living room. He'd walk right by me as if I didn't exist, do whatever he was going to do to visit my dad or whatever, and then leave. Fine. Wonderful. I was invisible. And I like that. But I've told you before, if you ask to be invisible, you need to be careful, because if you do it too much, then signals don't change. So you sit there forever waiting for the left-hand turn thing to come until somebody comes up behind you and the little camera can see it. Or the automatic doors won't open at the hotel or the grocery store. So be careful with being invisible, but it's also nice to not deal with these awful people if you don't have to. If you do, fine. If I'm supposed to deal with awful people, fine, bring them on. Now, another one, I had this boss I've talked about before who would wanted me to go outside of my scope of teaching. I was teaching first and second grade. The fourth grade teacher didn't want to be teaching those kids, so she wanted to switch with me, and she wanted me to go to camp for her. It's like, what? I could go to sixth grade camp. I've done that for years, and I did that a lot, and I would do it when I was teaching other grades. But I did not want to go because I was taking a class or teaching a class, I don't remember, over the hill. And Santa Cruz Mountains are not so great to drive in at night. And I didn't want to drive on back roads to go to camp if I had to go to this class at night. So I said no. Well, then he'd come in every day and yell at me and tell me I should be changing grades, and there was no problem with it. And why would I do it? And I ended up taking 6 weeks off. I went to my doctor and I was so depressed. I would be crying at recess. I would be crying when the kids came in. And part of it was to stand up to this girl, this lady, this other teacher, who decided she should like run the show, and I should take her class and she could take my class. Why? And I know part of it was standing up. I even went to my union president, and he said, "Oh, you can handle that." Okay, fine. That's so helpful. Anyway, so standing up, I know part of it was standing up and my worth, standing up for myself, and my point of view is worthy. My ideas are worthy. This other person is no more valuable than me. And it just didn't make sense to me. It's like, why is no one helping me? Why am I being asked to do something that doesn't make any sense? So part of it is to overcome. Part of it is to deal with negativity and negative people. And part of it is to figure out what is the lesson that you're supposed to get from this, whatever it is. And I know a lot of my lifetime has been with awful people. It's not feeling worthy, not feeling that I'm there, like they ignore me, like somebody else's point of view, or they repeat what I just said and they get the credit. I don't get it. Actually, I didn't get that. I told you this. There's a memorial clause in my school district's contract, because the assistant superintendent did not want to give me credit for a class. So after I put in the request to take the class, I took the class, and then afterwards, he had taken an envelope and whited out everything on the address of the envelope and resent it and sent me a letter saying that I was not going to get credit if I took the class. Well, that was sent after I even took the class. And then he didn't want me to get credit because that would move me over in the salary schedule. I get more money. And then everybody else who took that class didn't get credit for it. But you could get other credit for something else that you took from that same group, but not that class. So there was like this memorial clause of, okay, you can't do this. And it was because of me. But it was not being valued. I was not being valued. My efforts were not being valued. I was not being valued. I did not feel worthy. And he was reflecting it big time. He was really good at reflecting that. But it got to the point where I was, what do you call it? I was grievance chairperson. So every time that somebody had a grievance in the school district, I would be the one to go talk to this assistant superintendent and say, you're not following the contract. You need to follow the contract. This part right here, you need to follow the contract. So he would listen to me on that, but he didn't like it. In fact, one time I was going to the same gym he was. I was getting out of my car and walking into the gym. He came around the corner to go in the gym, saw me, turned around, got in his car and drove off because I was a plague on his time, because I kept saying, you're not following the contract, you're not following the contract, you're not following the contract, and insisting that he follow the contract or we would go up the scale of what would happen. Ugh, gads, awful people. And it's so disheartening to work with these awful people. Work with them, have them in your family, have them in your vicinity, have them be neighbors. Have them be neighbors is pretty awful. You know, there's one friend I have who's, there's a dispute on the fence. The neighbor keeps putting the fence over the property line, building it where they're not supposed to. And so they have to keep fighting with each other. In fact, in Carmel, which is quite close to me, Carmel, California, one neighbor shot another neighbor because of the boundary line on the fence. You know, they were encroaching on the driveway. The guy got real tired of it and finally just shot him. Oh, gads, I'm not going to shoot anybody. But sometimes, you know, you feel like, oh, gads, why is this person in my life? Why are they still bugging me? Why? Okay, number one, you can ask your spirit guide to make it completely evident, what is the lesson I'm supposed to learn here? Now, I've talked about this before. I don't get it the first time. I don't usually get it the second time. The third time, maybe I'll understand the message that they're giving me. But a lot of times it's like, after the third time, I'll think, oh, I've heard that before. Oh, I've heard that before, but I didn't get it. So ask, if you can meditate, ask them in meditation to come. Or ask to talk to a master teacher. You can go to the other side and go to the Temple of Messengers. When you go to sleep, say you want to go to the Temple of Messengers, you want to understand what this is that you're supposed to learn. Or ask to go to counsel. You can do it when you're meditating. You could do it, you can come to a hypnotist like me and I can guide you in consciousness when you're awake and take you there and you can figure it out. But you can also do it on the subconscious level, soul to soul. You know, like when you go to sleep, ask to get this answer. What is the understanding I need to come to? What do I need to understand about this? What is the lesson? What do I need to do? And work on that one thing. It can be going to the Temple of Messengers, Hall of Messengers, Temple of Messengers. You can go to council. You can go to the Temple of Reconciliation. There's other temples you can go to where you can find out the same answers. But if you're mystified, which I'm often mystified, like, why the heck is this going on? Why is this person being so mean to me? Well, sometimes it's past life stuff. Okay, the worthiness stuff is a lot of past life stuff. Like the life where I had with a priest. And I was like I don't know if I was in his family or if I was just like a servant, but I was psychic. People would come to him for help. He would ask me about it, find out the psychic answer, then go tell them and take credit for it. And then tell me I was totally unworthy. I was not valued at all. I was just like there. I was supposed to serve him. And that happened multiple lifetimes. Well, this lifetime, you guys were brave to come here, but this lifetime, you're gathering all the unfinished stuff from other lifetimes. So that's why there's so much negativity, awful people, because you said, okay, I want to finish up the unworthy feeling. I want to finish up the I'm not valued feeling. I want to finish up the I'm not even here. You're not recognizing me at all feeling. All of those things are reflected by somebody in your life until you get it. But you're stacking them all up this lifetime because this is the lifetime where we're shifting. We're shifting to a new dimension. So you're finishing up all your karma from all your other lifetimes that you want to check off, and you stacked them all into this lifetime. So lucky you were brave enough to come and you stacked up all the unfinished business. So the awful people are reflecting unfinished business. This is what I wanted to learn. So this one yucky person comes and reflects it to you. And it could be past life stuff. Like I said, feeling unworthy in other lifetimes. Or I was even killed in that one life for being psychic. So being psychic, I had trouble being psychic in this life because of the lifetimes where I've been killed for it and the lifetimes I've been punished for it. So I also took a vow in a lifetime not to share Gnostic knowledge, because I was the one who held the Gnostic knowledge. They knew me. I was the leader. So I let my people continue holding the knowledge. And I went to another country, changed my name, pretended I was not the person I was. And I took a vow not to share the knowledge. Because I took that vow, I couldn't share my knowledge in this lifetime. So I had trouble being psychic because I had taken a vow not to share what I knew. I could share what other people knew. So like I worked with Sylvia Browne, so I could share what she said, but I didn't share what I believed. Well, I believe, if I believed what she believed, but it was hard to be psychic because I'd taken that vow. So until I took away that vow, I disavowed it, then it became much easier. But there's so many things in your life that could be a reason for awful people to be in your life. A lot of it's expectations. If you expect someone to treat you in a certain way, that's probably the lesson. What is it you're expecting them to do? What is it that you think other people are going to do to you, or how are they going to treat you? And then that's what you need to disavow. That's what you need to reverse the expectation on. So take some time today and think, okay, how are people treating me? And pick one of those things, I'm feeling unworthy or whatever it is. Okay, I'm going to feel worthy. So if I'm feeling worthy, what would that entail? That would mean people treat me nicely. people, when I walk into the room, say, "Oh, come on, come sit with us." They say, "Oh, what do you think?" So those are your expectations. Make those be your expectations. And if you can't let it go, if you can't let the feeling go, let the emotion go, then think of it like, okay, this is the emotion, this is the feeling, this is what I'm having problems with. When else have I felt this in this life? Feel it, really feel it, and then do that. Kick the pillow, kick the box, throw some mud at the wall, and let that feeling go. If you can't, then talk to the therapist. Talk to me. I'll help you go into that feeling and let go of it. But deal with it. So figure out what that emotion is, really feel it, let it flow through you off and away, and then expect the good part. Don't expect feeling unworthy, expect to feel worthy. Don't expect to be ignored, expect to be valued and seen. Now, the problem with this is some people don't love you. Well, then they're probably not going to love you, and stop spending your time with them and go find somebody who loves you. So if you expect someone to love you, that's not always going to happen. That's the hard part of this life. People feel love all the time on the other side. You feel it in your heart. You feel it coming towards you. Actually, right now, your spirit guide, your angels, your loved ones are sending you love. But we usually don't feel it because we're not paying attention. And you want Joe Schmo over here or Susie Sunshine over here to love you, and they're sometimes not going to love you. Well, if they're not going to love you, stop spinning your wheel going, love me, love me, love me. If they aren't going to love you, then go on. There's someone far more worthy who's there for you. Maybe it's your niece. Maybe it's your next door neighbor. Maybe it's your best friend. But take the love that is coming to you and stop worrying about the people who don't want to love you. Stop worrying about the people who don't want to be your friend. Well, then there's other people who do want to be your friend. Find them. Be around them. Gather them around you. And stop spinning your wheels with people who are not going to ever be in your circle. Love yourself. Love yourself. You are worthy. You are a worthy person. You are so brave to come down here at this time. Take a breath and be thankful. Hug yourself. You're a good person. Take care of yourself. And today, reflect. See if there's one thing that you want to work on. One thing that you're expecting right now, awful thing you're expecting. You could think, okay, this is the awful person that's reflecting this awful thing. Okay, what is a lesson I'm supposed to learn? Expect the opposite. Expect the positive. And gather that to yourself. And know you are loved. You are so loved by God. You are so loved by your spirit guides. You're so loved by your angels. And all your loved ones send you love all the time. So breathe in that love. And take some time today to be nice to yourself and see what you can change in your expectations. And let those awful people drop away. Okay. Nice visiting with you today. And I hope to see you next Wednesday on Take What Rings True. Thanks. Bye.